Welcome back, Libromaniacs. We've got some more books to talk about today. We're going to break through a little bit more of the information firewall. See, book publishers, unlike movie publishers, unlike movie companies, unlike music companies, books have done a really good job of protecting their copyrights. Music, you can easily violate music copyrights and get music however you want to get it. Same with movies. It's a little bit harder, but it's not quite as commonplace. But books, I've really done a good job of. Like, sure, you can go on Amazon, read a few pages, but they protect their books, and I think there's like 75 years worth of copyright. So, you know, you're not finding that online. Now, you will find online books that are out of copyright. Like the internet has a lot of books that are over 75 years old, and some of those, like, I'll tell you what, scholarship 100 years ago was pretty awesome. So it isn't like some of those books are outdated. Sure, there's a little bit here and there that might be expired, but in the main, they had some amazing scholars back then. I don't know if you've ever seen those radio. I used to hear these on the radio. They would ask college students, or excuse me, ask high school students the questions that were on the graduation tests, the high school graduation test from 100 years ago. And usually there's a lot that stumped them. You could make the argument that in certain ways, scholarship was focused a little differently back then, perhaps too much on certain ideas or like educational ideals. But yeah, their tests were pretty hard, and the scholars back then were pretty amazing. And so even though you might find some old books online, they're still pretty awesome. But we've got the new books, and today I'm going to be reading a couple passages from one book I've already read a few times, from The Abominable Snowman, Legend Come to Life by the cryptozoologist Ivan Sanderson. And another book we have yet to debut here, On the Track of Unknown Animals by Bernard Hevelmans. These two gentlemen are top-notch zoologists. They are the founding fathers of cryptozoology, and these books are part of their curriculum, so to speak. And both are amazing books. So I'm gonna read a little bit about some Yeti stuff, since I've been doing videos on the Neanderthal. And see, so the Yeti actually, I said in an earlier video that I thought the Yeti was like the Almas and Kaptars of the Caucasus Mountains. Caucasus. I can't say that word, and I don't even know how to properly pronounce it. Anyways, those mountains where the Almas and Kaptars are, the Almas and Kaptars are usually 5 to 6 feet, whereas the Bigfoot and Sasquatches in the Pacific Northwest are like 7 to 8 feet. However, the abominable snowmen and Yetis of Tibet and the Himalayas are anywhere from 5 to 7 feet. Like, some of them are actually big, some of them are somewhere in the 5 to 6 foot range. And so one of the best accounts of Bigfoot started when they were trying to climb Everest. Some of the most famous photos are there. You probably have seen it before. There's this big, wide photograph of a Yeti print, and next to it is an ice pick to give you a size comparison. That's a famous photograph. You've probably seen it. That's Eric Shipton's photograph when they were up trying to climb Everest. They found these tracks, and it wasn't the first time apparently Shipton had seen tracks, but in this case he followed them, photographed them, and I'm going to read a passage about that from Ivan Sanderson. Despite the international scramble, it was again the British who attracted the world attention to the matter of ABSMs. That's his abbreviation for abominable snowmen. And it was still their mountaineers who did this. The most notable was Mr. Eric Shipton, who on still another reconnaissance of the Everest block came upon a long set of tracks, not by any means for the first time in his life, and after following them for some distance, noting that they were definitely bipedal but negotiated almost impossible obstacles that would have been hard even for an experienced mountaineer to do, took a series of clear photographs of them. These were published in the much respected Illustrated London News, not a publication given to elaboration, irresponsible reportage, or the mounting of international jokes. This time everybody had to take the matter seriously, and they did, but in a variety of ways. The public, as is its pragmatic wont, took it at its face value. The press literally howled. The explorers cheered a bit, but the scientists flew into a positive tantrum, an altogether undignified performance, the effects of which have not yet worn off and will not do so for many years. Skip ahead here. Here's another part on the scientific world. On the other hand, the whole affair was, until Eric Shipton published his photographs, really nothing more than a news gimmick, though the press had had to tread warily with the reports made by prominent persons, and especially of mountaineers engaged in the attack on Everest, which had official backing. The scientific world had not been quite so circumspect. At the outset, it denounced the whole thing as, at first, a fraud, then as a case of mistaken identity. And it stuck to this story. And it still in large part sticks to it today, even to the extent of deliberately ridiculing such men as Shipton and Kalbach. And so now we're going to go over to on the track of unknown animals, where he talks a little bit about the description of the Yeti. From the native reports, which agree in the main, one can compile the following description of the monster. The snowman is a huge creature, half man, half beast. It lives in caves high and inaccessible in the mountains. The skin of its face is white. The body is covered with a thick coat of dark hair. Its arms, like those of the anthropoid apes, reach down to its knees, but its face looks rather more human. Its legs are bowed. Its toes turn inward. Some even say that they turn backwards. Now that's because apparently people trying to track them, like the natives who try to track them, they think that it's capable of tricking them by turning its feet backwards, and therefore they're tracking it the wrong direction. Which it might just be a case of the animal is smart enough. It's not an animal, it's a human. It's smart enough to walk backwards in order to trick people's tracks, or trick trackers following its tracks. Back to the description. It is very muscular and can uproot trees and lift boulders of remarkable size. The female can be recognized by her long breasts, which she throws over her shoulders when she runs. There's an image. And that's what's interesting about the Patterson footage. That's one of the points for it. A lot of people think it's fake, and I find it impossible to believe he rented a camera on the same day he caught footage of one, but it had these pendulous breasts in that as well. Back to the Yeti. So that was a description of the Yeti. Here is a situation of quite a Yeti murder in the vein of the Dyatlov Pass Incident. Actually, considerably worse. In May of 1957, the Kathmandu Commoner, that's the name of, I believe it's ship, revealed that a snowman's head had been kept for, that's a newspaper. I'm sorry. The Kathmandu Commoner revealed that a snowman's head had been kept for 25 years in the remote village of Chilunka, 80 kilometers northeast of the capital. It was preserved to commemorate the bravery of the men who killed it. A quarter of a century ago, 32 Nepalese soldiers marching towards Kuti on the frontier of Tibet were attacked in the middle of the night by a Yeti, which killed 31 of them. The sole survivor gave the alarm, and a patrol of 10 men armed to the teeth were sent off to the place. They found the monster there, sleeping off its meal after eating several of its victims. 10 guns were fired it at once, but a second salvo was needed to polish it off. The leader of the patrol kept the beast's head as a trophy. That's terrifying. It killed 31 men out of 32, and these were military men. Or they were marching, right? Yeah, they were soldiers. 32 soldiers. And it killed 31 of them in a night. And ate some of them. Going back to the description, I left off with the female running image in our heads. But it continues with a couple more sentences that are important. These monsters are said to usually feed on yak's meat and snow worms. I didn't know there were worms in the snow. Sometimes when driven by hunger, they come down into the valleys, carry off people, and devour them gluttonously. They are so savage in times of famine, the females will occasionally eat their mates. So yeah, the Yetis are... The Yetis can be bad news. You know, we are a dog. That is the wolf. And that isn't just any breed of wolf. You know, like, we certainly run the gamut from, little Chihuahuas up to, something like Pit Bulls and Dobermans and whatnot. This thing is the wolf. And it's a big, bad wolf. Finally, I actually read confirmation of something I said yesterday. I didn't realize, maybe I'd read this before and was just unconsciously paraphrasing it. The Yeti is more likely to be met in a chance encounter around, say, a rock than by an organized search. A reconnaissance party of 2 or 3 sahibs needs about 30 Sherpa porters to support it over a period of about 3 weeks. We found it impossible to introduce such a large body of men into an empty quarter of the Himalayas without disturbing all the wildlife within it. These are, that's how, these areas really are, very inhospitable and rarely, if ever, penetrated by humans. Sure, they've been mapped from above. Sure, somebody flew over the forest and, has some pictures of it. That is not the same as exploring it and knowing what's under the tree canopy. So, Yetis are out there. They're either Neanderthals or they are... there may be 3 different types of Neanderthals, right? There may be just like a bear. There's Kodiak bears and grizzly bears and brown bears and black bears and whatever. These may be all bears in the sense that they're wild men, but they're different versions of the same Neanderthal, so to speak. Anyways, thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk next